Some time ago, a viewer contacted me with the knowledge that this tool, not the angle grinder, but the chainsaw disc that's attached on it, has been banned in the UK, and I wouldn't be surprised if other countries followed suit. For those that follow this channel, you know I was seriously injured by this very tool. So badly that I can't even show you the blurred images of it because YouTube pulls my advertisers when I do. I never called for this tool to be banned. I don't get involved in that sort of thing, but 2 years after my injury, I have the perspective that time provides. And I have some things to say about this tool and the prospect of a ban, and what I think about personal responsibility in the workshop. So first, let me tell you why it is my opinion that this is at least one of the most dangerous tools in woodworking. A lot of tools in our shops can kill you, but the danger for most tools are obvious. You may have never used a table saw before, but just looking at it, you can tell that it's not something to take lightly. So most people are cautious. Sure, some idiots will walk up to a table saw and do something reckless the first time they use it, and some pay the price for that. But most people can figure out, at least from the instructions, what they shouldn't do, and there's a lot of resources available to teach them what they don't know. That is not the case with this tool. Most people know nothing about it until they see it hanging on a rack in a store, or maybe they see it on a video that seems to be going through social media where it's portrayed as this handy dandy do-everything tool that can cut branches and PVC pipe, carve wood. It's such a good idea. Get one, you can do all this. That's what's so deceptive. This blade is marketed to a casual DIY customer base that has no idea how to safely use an angle grinder, let alone one with hyper-aggressive chainsaw teeth on it. It looks so easy. People don't know what they don't know. Angle grinders themselves are dangerous tools. Lots of people are injured each year with angle grinders. What makes them dangerous is the fact that the tool can pull in one of 4 directions depending on what part of the blade touches the workpiece. A round rotating disc can be divided into 4 quadrants. If this quadrant is in use, the tool will pull in one direction. If you use this quadrant of the disc, it'll pull in the opposite direction. Each quadrant pulls in its own direction. And if you tilt or shift the tool during use so that you engage a different quadrant, you can easily be surprised by a change in direction. If the tool catches on something, that change in directional force can violently jerk it from your grasp. It's called a kickback. Those who are very experienced using angle grinders know this, and they're very careful about what part of a regular cutting or grinding disc they're using so they can predict the direction the tool will pull and alter their grip accordingly. If they don't know about the quadrants, they can seriously injure themselves. Now remember, I'm talking about angle grinders as they're intended to be used, which is with grinding wheels and cutting discs that have smooth edges. Those are relatively forgiving of error. That type of disc is not going to grab like the chainsaw disc with these ultra-aggressive teeth. This type of disc is far less forgiving of error, yet they market them to homeowners and DIY folks who make lots of errors. Most of them know nothing about quadrants. I know this because I made a video about it, and the comments were full of people saying, "Quadra what?" Even worse, these blades are marketed not just for straightforward cutting, but for shaping and carving of wood. Wood carving, by its very nature, makes it difficult to pay attention to what part of the blade you're using and how you're holding the tool. Wood carving is done in a freestyle manner. You're constantly maneuvering the tool in different directions, extending your arms, cutting this way and that way. It's difficult to effectively carve a large object if you have to constantly adjust this big log's position so you can always keep the tool locked perpendicular to your body, right at your hip, in the safest possible manner. You can't do the job like this. And if you watch any professional carver, you'll see that they use a more fluid grip. I admit, a fluid grip is not a secure grip when working with an angle grinder, especially one with an aggressive, unforgiving blade. So by marketing this blade for wood carving, they're effectively encouraging unsafe use of the angle grinder itself, virtually ensuring that the user is going to put himself in a position where kickback's more likely. And when one occurs, its force will be compounded by these hyper-aggressive teeth on this particular cutter, making the loss of control far more likely. And if that loss of control leads to contact with your body, The chainsaw teeth are going to shred you in a way that no regular grinder will. A fiber disc may cut you pretty deep. This will remove fingers, sever tendons, it can climb your clothing and go right up to your throat. Fortunately, my case wasn't as bad as this guy's. I was using the face of the blade to make sweeping cuts on a surface, the same way I've seen many carvers use it, and how it's often marketed. I was pulling the tool toward me across the surface of the wood, lifting it off and resetting to make another pulling stroke. As I finished one stroke and I began moving it forward, just a split second before I had the tool up and clear of the wood. It's like tripping while you walk. There's a natural rhythm to walking. We all do it without even thinking. But once in a while, your rhythm is thrown off by just a tiny bit, and you catch your toe on the floor, you stumble a little. It's embarrassing, but it happens. That's what I did with my hands. I moved the grinder forward a split second too soon, and the toe of the blade caught in the wood. With a regular grinding disc, it may not have been a big deal, but the teeth of this chainsaw-style disc are so aggressive that they instantly dug in and the tool was ripped from my grasp. It took a plastic surgeon and months of therapy to get maybe 70% of my hand back. I still can't grip tightly or lift much with my left hand. It aches every day. It'll never be the same. I called it a freak accident in the video that I made shortly after it happened, and some people took issue with that statement, thinking I meant nobody was at fault. That's not true. When two cars crash into each other, we call it an accident. That doesn't mean nobody ran a red light. And looking back, there are a few things I would do differently. For example, I might put the handle on the other side of the grinder. That's because the end of the disc caught and spun the tool in the counterclockwise direction. And if my left hand had been on the body of the grinder instead of the side handle, it might not have been struck by the cutter. Of course, the tool may have whipped all the way around and just got me in the gut instead. I also would move the guard to cover the left side of the blade. This wouldn't have protected my hand because it wasn't that side of the blade that got me, it was the end of the blade. As I said, it spun almost all the way around. But in this position, the guard would have forced me to cut more with the right side of the disc, and it may have protected this end more. I've since learned that one manufacturer of this type of blade warns users on a little piece of paper to turn the guards to this left position. My blade's instructions said no such thing, which brings us to personal responsibility. I'm personally responsible for what I do in my shop. If I get a new tool, I have the responsibility to learn to use it properly. And as I said, there are things I do differently. But how is the average user supposed to know what he doesn't know? Unlike a table saw, there isn't a library full of books and videos and widespread consensus that this can be a dangerous tool. Pretty much all you get with this tool is slick marketing that portrays it as something for everyone that's so easy to use. This video suggests it can replace all these power tools, as if to say if you can use these, you can use this. How is the average person supposed to deduce from this marketing and a few square inches of instructions in the package that he has to understand the principles of quadrants before he uses it to cut a 2x4? How is he supposed to know that the guard on his grinder, which came in this lower position, has to be moved up to cover the side of the blade? How is he supposed to know that the handle on the right may be better moved to the left depending on which quadrant of the blade he's using at any given time? We have a responsibility to learn, but the manufacturer has a responsibility to properly educate the consumer, especially with such an aggressive and unforgiving tool that can cause so much damage. I still maintain that these teeth are just too aggressive for an angle grinder. The most dangerous part of a chainsaw is the tight radius at the end of the cutting bar. All this tool is dangerous radius. I never called for this tool to be banned. I never considered suing the manufacturer or using my platform to call out any particular manufacturer of this type of blade. One brand did see my original video, and they contacted me. They were very concerned about my injury, and I assume they wanted to talk about how they might educate folks to prevent other injuries or how the products may be made safer. But the second I told them that they weren't the manufacturer of this particular blade, even though they make one that's pretty much the same, I never heard from them again. They didn't really care about anything except what personal liability they may face. I'm not calling for an official ban, even if the manufacturers won't do the right thing on their own. But I can tell you, I will never let one of these overly aggressive, irresponsibly marketed finger shredders in my shop again. See you next time. This is a Koenigsegg, Sweden's finest sports car. This is a Joburgs, Sweden's finest workbench. There are things for people who appreciate quality and high performance, something they can pass down to their grandkids. You can't afford this, but this will cost you less than a good cabinet saw. Check out what Joburgs has to offer at the link below this video.